It's not mentioned, not the
A very good morning to you, our viewers. Welcome to it. This is a Thursday edition of the Breakfast Show. My name is Sharon Kalimbula, and on the other chair, of course, we've got the beautiful lady with the short hair.
Sharon, please, it's too early.
I've had this short hair for a long time, and so I don't know why we have shifted goalposts. But it's all right. It's one of those things.
Yeah, it's so stressful and it's becoming too hot. So I don't think I would manage.
You had this hairstyle when it was cold. Anyway, it's just an excuse that you're giving. However, thank you so much for choosing Camnet TV. Of course, we have quite a number of issues that we'll be dealing with this morning. We will bring you the health corner as usual. We'll look at the money markets and we'll look at some of the stories that made headlines as of yesterday to set the tone of what we expect today, which is Thursday. Thursday.
Something interesting is actually about to happen. Today is Thursday. We are a day closer and some few hours from the announcement of the 2023 national budget by the Finance Minister, Dr. Situmbeko Msokotwane. And a lot of expectations considering how the implementation of the 2022 national budget has been, Sharon. Yes, we've seen some lagging in the implementation of the 2022 national budget. And a lot of questions are coming out from the public to say, so what happens with the carryover of the 2022 national budget? Are you putting it to 2023, or 2023 has its own budget, or we are going to exhaust all the resources with the few remaining months before the year comes to an end?
It's not possible. I mean, we've exhausted about 8-10 months, almost 10 months of the year. We've failed to exhaust the resources, so it's not possible for us to use the money in 2 months.
Remember, also government went for a supplementary budget, and of course, that was because government had raised quite substantial amount of money, and they thought maybe they can add it to the national budget. But if you look at the implementation of the budget itself, there's a lot of lagging behind in that area. So
let's see how the 2023 national budget will be tomorrow. Obviously, we will be talking about it, and the other week we'll be looking at various sectors and the allocations of these resources, comparing it to 2022. For now, though, let's look at how we are faring in terms of health through the health corner.
Good morning, viewers. I'm Dr. Mutinta Muyuni, gynecologist, and today we're going to continue our talk on the menstrual cycle. We've talked about the menstrual cycle, where we are starting from, and we talked about some disorders of the menstrual cycle, and we've talked about how the menstrual cycle is a marker of the fact that we are ovulating and ready to fall pregnant, and that if that pregnancy does not occur, that the lining of the uterus will be shed, and this is important for us to take note. Why? We want to plan our pregnancies, we want to plan our lives. Menstrual cycles are a marker of fertility. Now today we're going to discuss menopause. Menopause is now at the end of our reproductive life. Menopause typically can be characterized into 3 phases. The perimenopause, meaning at least 5 to 10 years before your menopause, the menopause itself, and the period after the menopause. The perimenopause is characterized by a time when you are still having your menstrual cycles, though they may be irregular, but they are interspersed with symptoms that are associated with menopause, like hot flashes, like fatigue, lack of sleep, but you're still having your periods. This is in the perimenopause. Now take care, I'm talking about the biological menopause. There's also menopause that can be caused by surgical procedures for various treatments, cancer, for example, of the uterus, or cancer of the ovary that may be resulting your reproductive system as women being removed. So today we are just focusing on the biological stoppage of the menses. So if you are still having your periods, regular or irregular, but now symptoms of menopause are interspersed within that period, we call it the perimenopause period, ranging from 40, 45, right up to about 50, 51, where we expect the menopause to happen. What is menopause? I'm going to emphasize this. Also, sometimes in this period of the perimenopause, our fertility is really at a critical low. Our hormones are at a critical low. So sometimes we feel as women that I'm going to push and have my conception much, much later. But take care, even if you are not having your period, even if you are having your periods in the perimenopause, you may be at a stage where you are unable to conceive because of the critical level or low number of eggs that we have at this stage. During the menopause itself, we only say you have achieved menopause when you have had no periods for 12 straight months or 1 year. After this period of time, we call it postmenopause. This is characterized by many symptoms. Again, top to toe, mood swings may intensify, feelings of self-pity, feelings of anger. Some women just want to be alone. And please understand us when we are going through this. Don't be upset. It's biology. It's nature. Help us to manage it as we help ourselves. So, if you are having symptoms where you are crying frequently, your appearance is changing, your hair is thinning, these are all signs of menopause, and don't be so shocked about them. Rather, seek how can we minimize these symptoms. We may have again breast pain, lack of breast sensation, for example. We may have increased urinary frequency or passing a lot of urine quite frequency, which may be confused also with onset of diabetes. So, see, you have to come and be diagnosed for some of these things. Sometimes you have a lot of pain. Why? Because of low estrogen and the dryness in the vagina. So, lack of moisture, that tight feeling or uncomfortable, where sometimes even during intimacy, you may have bleeding because of the dryness in the vagina due to menopause. But that can also be cervical cancer. So you have to come and seek attention. It's not a time to shy away from the hospital, rather a time to intensify understanding why I'm going through some of these. Again, going down to the lower limbs, we have joint pain, backache, brittle bones or bone weakness, particularly in those women who have had many children. So you want to take your calcium supplements during pregnancy to counter what you are going to experience during the menopause period. You may also have, because estrogen helps regulate cholesterol levels in conjunction with the liver, you may have cardiovascular events or things like hypertension creeping in. You may have things like chest tightness creeping in after your menopause. You may have palpitations, anxiety spells. All of these are symptoms or things that you might feel. And of course, to top it all, the all famous hot flashes. I feel hot, I'm sweating suddenly, I'm drenching the beds, I can't sleep at night. I feel like there's something crawling all over my body. My dear, this is just part of menopause. Maybe the beginning, hopefully it will improve as the years go by. Might not, but if you need help, you know where to find us. I'm Dr. Mutinta Myuni from Medical Women's Association of Zambia, talking to you about menopause today. See you tomorrow as we delve more into these important landmarks for women.
Right, that's what the doctors have for us this morning. Menopause, they've been talking about it this whole week and advancing on each day, giving you what you expect. And Prudence Jordan just did.
Yeah, like fine, I'm surprised.
When those things were
the symptoms of how you know you're reaching that stage.
Exactly.
I did the doctors. Anyway, I don't want to get scared because I'm not yet there. But I've just gotten to learn that you begin to feel all these signs of waking up, feeling
tired, shivery. But you know, it's symptoms, like we always say, they differ from one body to another. You may not experience everything. You may just experience one or two of those symptoms that she has mentioned. So you don't have to be scared for this.
Of course,
just
Sharon,
brace yourself. Prepare your mind psychologically.
I'll try not to.
Prepare your mind psychologically. But anyways, this morning we want to talk to you, our viewers. You can call us or send us those text messages and tell us what's happening in your various localities. We may be able to just come through to you and see exactly with the news crew what is happening. So you can talk to us, call us. A number of things have been happening in the country, and we are expected to go into the next phase because this is the last quarter of 2021-22, and the next year is going to be a hive of activity. Obviously, it's like the second year of the UPND administration putting in their own work to task. So we will see. And we are very much expectant as the people. Prudence, this year hasn't been so good. You talked about how the budget implementation has been in most sectors. To talk about the famous CDF, it hasn't really been fully actualized. It has been released in bits and parts.
And we know for a fact that there's still money lying in accounts. It's like you've got money.
To them.
It's like you've got money. Money has been given to you, but you don't have access to utilize that resource.
According to them, there's money. So yeah, according to them, there's money.
No, there is. I remember even the Bank of Zambia governor last time, I think I said this earlier on the program, to say he did mention to say the private sector credit rating was degraded last quarter. Why? Because government has collected a lot of revenue, but it's not spending. As a result, the private sector has no money to spend. So there's a problem. So it's like government has collected money, but the money that it has collected is just there, it's just sitting somewhere. As a result, those resources are not being released in the economy, and the private sector has no money to spend. Why? Because government is holding on to resources. Remember, we don't print money anyhow and at any time. We have particular notes in the country at a particular time. So when someone is holding on to them, there's nothing to spend by the other agencies. So we are so expectant about the 2023 budget to see how its implementation will be, and some of the things that they're likely to change in the budget to ensure that resources can now be spent. We need those resources in our economy, and I hope if the government officials are listening, or perhaps even the president, you can implement some of the policies that are going to allow resources to be spent so that the private sector has resources to also spend.
Talking about money, Prudence, let's look at how the kwacha is faring against the major convertibles so that you change those dollars that you have.
Of course. There you have it. Money market this morning. The Zambian kwacha against the United States dollars is buying at 15 kwacha 64 ngwe and selling at 15 kwacha 95 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the Great British Pound is buying at 16 kwacha 65 ngwe and selling at 16 kwacha 98 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the euro is buying at 15 kwacha and selling at 15 kwacha 29 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the South African rand is buying at 0.87 Ngwe and selling at 0.89 in Ngwe. Something interesting there, Sharon. The Zambian kwacha against the British pound. We've seen pound has not been, we've seen what's happening in Britain, high inflation rate. There are a lot of economic activities that are happening that are triggering even the way their currency is performing. And we've seen now kwacha there and the British pound almost at the same level with the US dollar.
It was actually at the same level
and
the other week.
The other week. Oh, yeah,
It was at 15, so it has started appreciating.
Yeah, a little bit. I think I've been following what's happening in, of course, in Britain of late, and we've seen there are a lot of complaints with regards to high inflation rate in their country, which has not been the case for quite some time. A lot of businesses have been affected by what's happening in the economy. As a result, we could even witness that by the Zambian kwacha appreciating slightly, because I've been observing in the past, you find that the Zambian kwacha against the British pound, there's quite a big
huge
gap. Yes.
It's always on the high end. It's always on the high end. It should be trading at 24 kwacha, while the dollar is probably trading at 15 or 16. You know, there would be like a 5-6 kwacha difference. So it is what it is, and our kwacha really is gaining strength by the day, and we surely hope that it continues to trade within that range, because it will mean that most of the businesses will be stable, a little bit stable. A little,
but when I hear that, sometimes I laugh about it, Sharon, because we have a lot of young youths excited, of course, and of course there you are, you're equally youth looking forward to buying your first car. And if our local currency begins to perform like that, I'm sure we're going to see an influx of VITs, which we don't want, and low quality vehicles and stuff like that. So I always tell people, if you're planning to buy a vehicle, please let's bring quality in the country, even as our local currency is appreciating against other major convertibles. I know a lot of people are excited, yes, about that, but please, we don't want carbon pollution.
Showroom vehicles. They're the ones who's advocating for. You deserve to be a brand ambassador for someone. With this advertorial. Let's look at the story that before we move from to do with money.
Of course.
Let's look at the story by Bremna Changala, where he was advising government to remove these tax holidays.
Yeah, we did see in the 2022 budget some tax holidays were given to the mining sector. And if I remember very well, I might not quote it correctly, but the Ministry of Finance, that is Dr. Sitombe Komsokotwane, did announce that through the tax holidays that the mining sector were given, the country was losing out about 3.4 billion kwacha from the exercise. And if you look at that, that's quite a substantial amount of money to lose out on giving the mining sector taxes, so that perhaps they can increase on their productivity as well as employ more people. But that is not happening, because we are seeing now KCM laying off workers and stuff. We've seen the KCM vendetta issue has continued for quite some time, and it is affecting government's plans of what they want to do. So now Mr. Changala is saying, has advised governments to remove tax holidays for the mining companies in the 2023 national budget, of course, which government is announcing tomorrow. So Minister of Finance Tumbukom Sokotwane is expected to present the 2023 national budget this Friday, with various stakeholders hoping for better in respective sectors. In an interview with Camnet News, Mr. Changala has wondered why countries should be celebrating borrowing resources that comes with conditionalities when it has the capacity to raise the said resources through taxing the mining sector. The government activist says whoever is advising the government on the tax regime should ensure that they advise them correctly in the 2023 national budget. What are we talking about? We are going to zoom into that story that made headline in our news yesterday. Of course.
Whoever is advising the government to give tax relief must check himself, because that is suicide and driving a country into extinction. The copper that is being taken out of the country is developing other countries. So a tax regime must come back, and it must be in such a way that tax is paid, full tax, before the copper leaves the country. Because once the copper leaves the country, is sold outside the country, what is brought back is only money for expenses and salaries, allowances, and other emoluments. There isn't any investment. With this wealth, we celebrate borrowing money from IMF. We hold a party to even eat into the money that has been borrowed. That is shameful, unacceptable, and suicidal. So we need a tax regime that will collect enough revenue to supplement and support our national development program.
There you have it. That was Mr. Brenna Changala. He is a government activist. Governance activist, pardon me. And of course, he was speaking to the fact that the 2023 budget should address issues with regards to taxing the mining sector. The tax holidays that were given to the mining sector last year by the government should be revised. I don't know, for those who are watching us in the comfort of your home, or maybe at your office, or maybe you're traveling and you're watching us on different platforms, let's get to hear what you have to say with regards to that issue. 3.4 billion kwacha was lost just because government gave tax holidays to the mining sector. And I do remember the Minister of Mine trying to clarify that by saying we didn't give them tax holidays. There are still taxes there, but if there were not tax holidays, why are we losing 3.4 billion kwacha? And we went to the IMF to seek 1.4 billion US dollars when we have given tax holidays to the mining sector. Have the tax holidays that have been given reflected in what is happening in our economy? And tomorrow, what is it that the government should do? Let's get to hear what you have to say with regards to that particular topic of discussion this morning. So that was one of the governance activists yesterday who was appealing to the government, and he mentioned something very interesting to say: we borrow money, Sharon, and then we hold a party celebrating
part of it,
and even eat part of the money that we have borrowed. What is that for us as a country? A good thought there.
Prudence, I think what we've covered a number of times, the Minister of Mines denying that there are no tax holidays, there are no such incentives for the mines. But then, like you clearly mentioned, to say, if we don't have these incentives, why are we losing such a huge amount of money through taxes on the mining sector's part? We need to come back to reality as a country, and this administration as well, in terms of communication. People are really not that down, for lack of a better term. People are awoke, people are reading, people are understanding what is contained in the budget, and they're tracking the implementation part. The different organizations that are doing that.
Yeah, of course.
So really, even when you're trying to clarify, I think it's important to get the facts right, because Mr. Changala there is saying, we don't want these things. But why would people continue talking about one thing that is not non-existent, you know? So we need to ensure that we communicate the right message. Those that are in government, really, communicate to us, the people, rightly. Don't argue, don't defend yourselves. Just speak the truth.
And of course, you know, the mining sector is the backbone of Zambia's development. We get a lot of resources from the mining sector. So the question that everyone keeps asking is, if you give these giant companies tax holidays, and then you tax an ordinary person like me, who's getting paid as low as 6,000, 5,000, and then someone says, from there you have to pay tax at this particular rate. While big companies are being given tax holidays, how is it then that you're helping your own people to develop or have more resources? If at all you are taxing,
you cannot develop by taxing your own people.
While giant mining companies are tax free.
Indeed, Prudence, we want to hear what you want to say on this very important conversation and your expectations going forward. However, Prudence, we also did a story yesterday where President Hakainde Hichilema was officially opening the business forum at Mulungushi International Conference Center. And one of the things that came out really is that we have, he attributed a shortage of pharmaceuticals in various hospitals to delays, or maybe the long time that it takes
from the time you purchase to the time the medicines come. For example, I gave an example, 6 months, 5 months, sometimes 7 months from the time you make that purchase. So you realize that even when you have money, even when you are saying we have bought the medicines are never in the country because it takes all that long. And then remember, in March this year, we held the first ever EU Zambia Business Forum. Of course, we saw a lot of companies that participated. We are yet to hear what business deals were signed through that, of course, business forum. We hope one day we will have the Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry, Mr. Chpoka to just come and give us an update on what we benefited or what has come in through that business forum. And then when that happened, China equally said, we have been a long-term partner. We also want our own business forum where our own companies can come and exhibit and see what we can get on the Zambian market. And so the 2 days China-Zambia Business Forum is being held in Lusaka. It started yesterday, and of course it is ending today. Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema was the guest of honor, Sharon, and he officially opened the Zambia-China exposition. And of course, when, as you mentioned earlier, when he was opening, he mentioned that one of the major things that they discussed is that this expo should result in the establishing of a pharmaceutical company here in Zambia, where we will be manufacturing our own medicines. The president says they have agreed with the Chinese colleagues to say, when this is all done, we need a pharmaceutical company here in Zambia. And of course, the medicines that will be produced will also now be exported to other countries.
And that will definitely happen. I trust the Chinese when it comes to the swiftness that they have.
Of course.
You will realize that probably the EU forum will be very slow than the Chinese. The Chinese probably by next year they'll give you an update to say, as a result of that forum that we held, this is what we've come up. You know, they will have already started establishing. They're already probably looking for land as we speak, where to put that giant pharmaceutical company. You know, but the other guys are Sunga, Boris, Liz, they'll look at all these things. The process is quite long. The Chinese, they're fast.
They're fast.
You know?
And of course, there's something interesting that the president said yesterday, in case you're just tuning into Camnet TV. He did mention the fact that, in the past, as a country, we've signed a lot of MOUs that have never been actualized.
Yes.
And sometimes they get surprised when they go in these countries, out of the country. They are being told, we signed this MOU 16 years ago, and not even a single dollar has yet been transacted in that MOUs. So the president yesterday said, whatever MOU was signed in the Kaunda time, in the Manawasa, in the Chiruba, it is the MOU for the Zambians and not for a political party. So those who've been arguing that they are implementing their ideas, it is not their ideas, because it is not money that came from their pocket that signed those MOUs, but for the people of Zambia. So President Hakainde Hichilema said it is high time we started actualizing all the MOUs that we are signing in the past, and the ones that they are signing now. No more signing MOUs and you put papers in the offices. And then you even hold an activity, money has been involved, people travel and they go and sign MOU only to come back and pack that MOU.
It actually speaks to how much these attached persons to the embassies, what are they doing? Because they need to follow up. If you're sent to Zimbabwe, for example, to go there at the mission, you need to ensure that whatever MOUs that we are signing between that country and your country, see what they call the day of light or light of day.
Of course.
As boys, So you need to ensure that you follow up those things. But then the bigger question is, where were they for this time? If we signed a lot of MOUs which are not seeing anything happen, they're just parked out there, then it befits the purpose of you being sent in a foreign country to go and represent your country. So really, we surely hope that indeed, like the president has mentioned, this forum will culminate into a huge pharmaceutical company which will produce a lot of pharmaceuticals and export to other countries as well, so that at least they can take 6 months to receive the same way we do.
No, I'm sure it will it will be quicker, because I think in Africa we have very few companies, actually, or very few industries in Africa that are pharmaceutical. So as a result, we are always looking to the west, to Asia, to the south, I don't know, and stuff like that. So we are hopeful that when this is done, Zambia will become a supplier to other African countries and, of course, to its own country. So what are we talking about? We are going to zoom in that story that made headline in our news yesterday.
4 months after Zambia held its first ever European Union Zambia Economic Forum, which saw the participation of several European businesses, the country has yet again attracted another expo, but this time around from the Asian continent. The 2-day Zambia-China Investment Forum has commenced in Lusaka under the theme China-Zambia Trade and Investment Cooperation in the New Era, All-Weather, All-Dimensional and High-Quality Friendship. And Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema Hichilema, who officially opened the China-Zambia Business Forum, says his administration has agreed with a Chinese consortium that the forum should result in the establishment of a pharmaceutical plant in Zambia.
Wait sometimes 6 months, lead time is 6 months from the time you pay for the drugs that our people need. By the time the drugs hit the clinic in China, it's 6 to 7 months. These are necessary. So in that conversation, we agreed to also look at the pharmaceutical sector to manufacture right here and then distribute, not just in this country, but in the region and the country. So we are looking at transactions that will lead to domestic manufacture for pharmaceuticals.
And while the country has in the past signed several memorandum of understandings that have yielded no results, the president says his administration will ensure that it begins to actualize all the MOUs that have been signed, both in the past and the new ones.
The message to those who are saying, oh, he's implementing our program. It's not your program. It is the Zambian people's program. They funded it. You didn't take money from your pocket and funded the program. You used that. Government is not a job. Politics is not a job. Seriously. And when countries run things, public affairs seriously, it shows in their economic performance, in their trade balance. So let's do that.
Meanwhile, the Zambia Development Agency Acting Director General Albert Halwampa says the country is looking to increasing China investment into Zambia to $20 billion United States dollars by the year 2030, which President Hichilema has challenged that it moves to $30 billion United States dollars.
This platform we have created by 2030 should be able to generate close to $20 billion of investment into this country. I know that is possible because China's GDP is over $20 trillion. So if you could just get a little bit of that GDP, then that would make sense.
In China, Ambassador to Zambia says China will continue to invest in Zambia due to the favorable investment opportunities.
China is prepared to cooperate with Zambia to actively carry out President Xi Jinping's proposed Belt and Road Initiative, Global Development Initiative, and Global Security Initiative. China will unswervingly promote opening up and provide Zambia the growth potential with an unique, unmatched single market of 1.4 billion users.
Over 400 local and international businesses are exhibiting at the forum, and Zambia looks forward to seeing what business opportunities will come out of the forum. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
There you have it, Zambia's Republican President Hakainde Hichilema yesterday addressing a lot of people yesterday who came to witness the Zambia-China Trade Investment Forum, which is being held in Lusaka. It is a two-day forum, and of course, some businesses are exhibiting, Chinese businesses are exhibiting at that forum, and a lot of Zambian companies are looking forward to signing a lot of MOUs that will emanate into productive things. So, as we were speaking earlier, Sharon, the president has...
Let's speak to call Prudence
to
talk to one of our callers. Hello, good morning. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Yes, I'm just going to
Go ahead. What's your name, sir?
Ernest.
Ernest?
The interest as so you're saying that the Gambia cannot proceed any legislation.
It can.
But here, as from my experience, like, I'll give an example. I spoke about that actually this has been shut down. I don't know why the government hasn't invested in them to produce medicine.
Okay.
So it's more like a request. This is can be it. Why can't the government open up this company and stop? I like for example, here in Rome, there is the industry infrastructure which can produce Panadol, drugs. They are fighting these MO2
Okay.
then the other question I have is that what are we gaining from this MOU which are being signed by China? Was that not from 2010? I don't see any impact. There were two important legislations for you. It's not the fact.
All right. Thank you so much for your call. You two out there, in case you are just joining us, you're watching the Camnet Breakfast, and we are discussing current affairs. The man there who's just from calling Prudence is commenting on the story that we did yesterday for President Hakainde Hichilema. He was saying that this China-Zambia Business Forum will culminate into probably a huge pharmaceutical company, attributing the delays in the importation of these pharmaceuticals to resulting into most hospitals not having medicines. He hopes that once this is done, the thing of not having medicines, you know, it's been very common, especially under this administration.
Even now, I think I was at the clinic just a few days ago, and of course, even medicines like Piriton, we are not there. I was literally told to go and buy, and of course, stuff like that. I remember the only thing that I was given were 6 Panadols, and the other prescription I was told to actually go and buy. Of course,
so a very bad footing. So he hopes that once this is done, we will have that big pharmaceutical company which will be able to export. I know we have that other one, Yash, that's I think Indian, but maybe it's not producing as much. We have a number of pharmaceutical companies, but they're not as huge as expected.
And I think this goes to the core that that has just come in case our stakeholders are watching, of which I know they are watching. Luckily, we know that the Ministry of Finance is listening. We've just received a message. It's good to know that you're following this program at Camnet TV. So we know that the issue that is just raised, the caller has raised, where he says, if you go on the copper belt, I'm sure it's coming from the copper belt, you will realize that we had some companies that were actually producing things like Panadols, but now we are even having an issue when it comes to having paracetamol in our health facilities. So why can't we revamp those industries to ensure that they begin producing so that we don't have to look from outside? And of course, he said these MOUs that we've been signing since 2010 is realized that we've signed a lot of MOUs. How are they benefiting the country? And going forward, these MOUs that are being signed, how is it that they're going to benefit the country when we have some industries in the country that are not even performing, that can be revamped by our government? So this is a challenge that our stakeholders and those who are listening to Camnet TV, of course, are giving to our government, our UPND administration, to ensure that they work on some suggestions they are sharing. We might not have answers to them as it is, but it is very important, and some of those questions are what we will be following up in our news to understand why this has been the case. We have these companies that were producing these, we had, and now they are no longer there. So how is it that government is coming in to ensure that we revamp those industries even before we look to inviting new industries in the country? But remember, pharmaceutical companies do manufacture a lot of products, a lot. If you go in hospitals, clinics today, you will realize that there are various types of things that are needed. Yes, it's not just medicines. We've got a lot of things.
We've got gloves, we've got these, they've got syringes, they've got, you know, a lot of utensils.
Even cotton wool. Sometimes we're just importing. When we grow our own cotton, but you find that what is being found in these health facilities is actually being imported into Zambia when we do grow cotton. But if you have a pharmaceutical company in Zambia, it will begin to table some of those issues. It will also create not just employment for those who will be employed, but even our farmers out there. Imagine if you sign a contract for you to be supplying cotton wool to that pharmaceutical company. Of course, definitely you will, as a farmer, benefit something from that.
Yes, indeed, Prudence. The most depressing thing for most of us is you go to a clinic and they fail to even give you Panadol. You know? we go like, what I think it's very depressing for most of us. At least we expect them to give us that, but at some point there was nothing like that. We didn't even have Panadol, and I think these political opponents for the ruling party actually took advantage of that to gain political mileage. They went from one hospital to another to just check the situation.
The opposition, yes, and they were using. And we are now glad that the president yesterday did clarify to say the reason why sometimes we're having shortages in our health facilities is because of the time it takes. You order today, for that shipment to come into Zambia, it will take about 5, 6, sometimes to 7 months. But look at all that period. Again, you find that when it comes, because of too much shortage, the medicines are distributed. Before you know it, in a month, 2 months, we run out, waiting for another shipment, which is coming again after some months.
At the same time, it's a danger, Prudence, to the lifespan, the shelf life for those medicines. Because, I mean, it takes 6 months for the meds to reach. I'm just giving an example. We mentioned clearly that pharmaceuticals are quite a number of things that are used in the health sector. But then we talk about medicines. 6 months is quite a long time for them to be in transit. And when they come, they probably have a shelf life of like 3 months. They expire. They're drugs that are not consistently used as Panadol. I'm referring to Panadol. We call it Panadol, but in the actual sense it's paracetamol, because Panadol is a brand, you know, but we are so used to that. So there are many medications that are not taken as much as we take the Panadol, because that is actually bought over the counter. You can go in the drugstore, you can go in the shop, you can go anywhere and just say Funako Panadol, they'll give you. But then we've got these other medications that are prescribed. They're not taken as often. They probably have a shelf life of a year. It takes 7 months for them to be to reach the country. 3 months cannot be exhausted, and then they expire, and then you throw. All that again comes back to wasting resources due to the long processes involved in the procurement process. We surely hope that once this is done, once that pharmaceutical company is done, we will see these things not really happening, and we'll just be importing a few of the drugs.
Let's keep our fingers crossed, Sharon. We know China is serious when it comes to doing work.
When it comes to the speed. I trust them when it comes to the speed. I have to emphasize the speed, you know, at which they do things is actually a marvel. They commit. When they commit to something, they will ensure that it works. More so if the president was there. I mean, you cannot lie to the president,
of course,
as an investor.
Of course.
You've got your own benefits, of course, owing to the fact that China has had a very bad name when it comes to investments in Zambia. Like many other African countries, Prudence, you will see a lot of screaming headlines attributed to Chinese nationals. You did a story the other day. You went when they were announcing
at the press briefing for this meeting.
For this same meeting, they said, you know, we've got a lot of screaming headlines that are against us as the Chinese community here in Zambia. There was a Chinese ambassador to Zambia, and he cried out for lack of a better term. Please, cover positive stories. So we want to see those positive stories being covered, especially when they construct or they put up this pharmaceutical company. I think I pledged to cover them and do a positive story.
Just mention that, of course. Also, the ambassador did appeal to their fellow Chinese nationals to say, if you act out of the law, no one will be here to protect you. The embassy will not protect you. You have to face the consequences alone. So they have also urged their fellow Chinese investors in Zambia to abide by the law. When you come into Zambia as an investor, you will find that there are laws in this country. Ensure that you follow the laws. So if anything, you act outside, the embassy will not protect you. So they were saying, we see a lot of these screaming headlines about Chinese investors because people always pick the negative and leave the positives, because there are a lot of positive stories that China has done into Zambia that no one is talking about. So that's why we are saying we give them credit, because when it comes to speed, of which they do work, they are always on point.
They're on point. All right, I guess you're just joining us. You're watching the Camnet Breakfast. My name is Sharon Kalimbola. On the other chair is Prudence Chota, and we are discussing current affairs. You too can have your say on the many stories that we ran yesterday and anything that is happening in the various localities. We may just be able to surprise you and visit you where you are so that we can have a conversation. For now, though, let's take a short break. When we return, we'll continue the conversation that we're having this morning.
For immediate coverage of any breaking or latest news in Zambia and around the world on Camnet television, call the numbers on your screen. Camnet television, bringing to your screens fair news, impartial news, credible and reliable news all the time. Get the whole truth on Camnet World News. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. Renglow, your smart irrigation partner.
Thank you so much for still staying tuned to Camnet TV. Remember, Camnet TV is not just another channel. This is a breakfast show, a show that comes to your set every morning from 07 hours to 09 hours, where we discuss a lot of important aspects. Monday, Tuesday, we do look at community. Wednesday, Thursday, policy issues. And on Friday, which is tomorrow, we do look at the business sector of what is happening around. So we are zooming into some of the story that made headline in our news yesterday, and we just looked at what the president said yesterday when he was opening the China-Zambia Business Forum. And of course, he did mention that the forum will, of course, result in the establishing of a pharmaceutical industry in Zambia. Hopefully that is actualized, because this is going to settle the issue of medicine shortages in our health facilities and other pharmaceuticals. And of course, we did earlier also play a clip from a governance activist, Mr. Brendan Changala, who was appealing to government to ensure that the tax holidays that were given to the mining sector in 2022 are waived off in the 2023 national budget. The country is losing losing about 3.4 billion kwacha due to the tax holidays that were given to the mining sector. So people are saying enough of holidays in the mining sector. Let's realize resources from the natural resources that has been given to us by God. And of course, we are going to zoom also into another story that made headline in our news yesterday, Sharon. And we, of course, know that there has been a burning issue in our country, and that is the issue of accidents. Yesterday, our reporter witnessed an accident just along Kabalonga Road, which was as a result of overspeeding by the driver. Our drivers, please, we now make an appeal and a plea to you. Remember that the vehicles that we are driving, Sharon, is just metal.
Machines.
It's just metal. And it can break at any time.
We drive and they depend on our control.
But when you lose your life cannot be repaired. When you lose your life, a lot of people lose out. Your children, your family members, those who rely on you, community loses out. I don't know why we've continued. There's also an accident that happened yesterday. Of course, we didn't have it in our news, but we did see a clip of an accident that happened yesterday. And what was surprising and shocking, Sharon, was the area in which that accident happened. Because most of the time when we see accidents, we expect them to happen in a tarred road, in a fast-moving place and stuff. But this accident I'm talking about happened in a bushy place, for lack of a better word. That's not even a gravel road. I don't even know if it's a sand road. That's why I can describe it. A sand road, Mumpanga, with these canters that carry a lot of people on them. There's actually an accident that happened yesterday, and the driver and another person died on the spot. When you look at that accident, it just gives you a lot of thoughts as in what exactly happened. Like you can't even picture in a sand road that such a terrible accident can happen. And those who had goods on that car lost out because their goods were everywhere.
Scatters.
Yeah, like it's just shocking. Like I tried to watch that clip over and over, and I kept asking myself, what could have gone wrong here? What is happening with our drivers? Please, let's be considerate when we are on the road. A number of accidents are happening, and of course, you have something, Sharon, what happened yesterday.
Indeed, Prudence, two Lusaka residents have escaped death after the vehicle they were in careered off the road and skid in the drainage before coming to a sudden stop. In an interview with Camnet News, the driver of the vehicle was shaken by the incident, says he suddenly lost control of the vehicle, which was just from being worked on by the mechanic. Both the driver and the passenger were rushed for medical care, as the passenger was injured after flipping out of the window during the accident, while the driver sustained minor injuries. Let's look at this story while we think about what we should do to reduce these road fatalities.
A series of road traffic accidents have been recorded in Zambia over the past 2 weeks, with a total of 35 lives of citizens lost. In a latest incident, two Lusaka residents Wednesday morning narrowly escaped death along Kabalonga Road after their vehicle swerved off the road, skidding along a drainage before coming to a sudden stop. This comes after the loss of 23 lives in an accident in Kaputa district of Northern Province on 19 September 2022 and the loss of 12 lives after a road traffic accident along the Great East Road outside the University of Zambia, Unza, on Saturday 24 September 2022. This journalist witnessed the accident, which happened as the driver was overspeeding, hence careering off the road. One passenger who was in the vehicle during the accident flew out of the window onto the pavement, resulting in some injuries and bleeding through the mouth. The driver who was shaken says the passenger is an electrician who was from taking a look at the vehicle before the accident. The driver, who was limping after sustaining minor injuries, only agreed to go to the hospital after being forced by onlookers, while the passenger was rushed by sympathizers for medical care at the nearest hospital. Meanwhile, eyewitnesses maintain that the driver was overspeeding, urging drivers to abide by road regulations.
Motoka imwe yabwera speed kuchokera out, then yaruzinga control, then yamenya mukapeva hapo first, then kubwa ku drainage manje. so kunga yenze speed maningi
kunkhala kuti kuenzenga chepang'ono kutoka pane vachokera tembe sinachitike ndechane ningakambeko mwandi mami ndipemphereko ku government vazikambako na madriver kuti awo maspeed please onani mangozi nomeni ya mangozi yeka tinachokoshika venangu apa manje mamairo mwaona naye uja driver anafa kuti anakambati ndienze rongu enze speed mwaona so manje ndechane ningakambeko speed please kaya vangachite bwanji kuti vantu vazireko tamangisa mamotoka
ife tamvera tenze mgedu tamvera cha boom imotoka yambira kuchaira mukabiriji muchi mpaka kubwera kusirizikira munamba 2 bridge
pamene nazaona naona chabeki likungu mwamba umo tuvuka po tamanga uzaona na kuti motoka imene accident imene
Accidents have continued to claim the lives of citizens and robbing families of breadwinners, hence necessitating urgent measures to curb these incidents. Zambia by 2030 hopes to have reduced road traffic accidents by 50%, but recent happenings in the country seem to be pointing in the opposite direction unless corrective measures are taken. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
So that was one of the accidents that happened just here near our office along Kablonga Road, Prudence. And Zipporah Mshala happened to be around that area and witnessed part of what was happening. According to her explanation, she was moving towards the mall here, towards Hilltop, and she just heard the noise. When she looked back, there was a lot of dust. She couldn't even see exactly what was happening. And when the dust settled, it was an accident. And fortunately, nobody died from that accident. The past 2 weeks haven't been very good for the country. We've seen a number of deaths through accidents. And in Lusaka, the greatest one, the one that you covered, they were burying at least 8 bodies as of the day before yesterday.
Of course.
And those women who went for a church gathering died in that accident. Very sad situation, and we surely hope that 1 or 2 things can be put in place at least to mitigate these accidents.
Maybe Sharon, let's get to here. What does the public think is leading to an increase in the number of these accidents? Because if you look at the clip that we just played, you would really wonder how that even happened in a road like that. How did someone find
it? It wasn't really. And you know, Kablonga Road is not as busy. It's not as busy, and it happened between Kablonga Roundabout and the mall here, Kablonga Mall here. So between that area, at the Catholic Secretariat, somewhere there, Kapingila House, that's where the whole incident happened. So it wasn't as busy. You know, the cars were not as, it wasn't even peak hour. Maybe if I say busy, it would be like, it wasn't peak hour. You know, when it's peak hour, people are always rushing. It's different from the greatest one. You know, the greatest road one, those that were doing their own analysis were saying, because that is like a highway.
Yes,
and people really fly there. They don't drive, they fly. So when you look at the whole scenario, it just makes you wonder exactly like the way you've been wondering over that dusty road that led to 2 people dying.
Yesterday, of course, it was yesterday.
Without knowing exactly what really happened. So we want to find out from you, our viewers, what is the best thing to do to ensure that the road accidents are reduced. And the Minister of Transport, Mr. Frank Tayali, actually said we might introduce the roadblocks so that we can derail drivers from driving at the high speed.
Do you think maybe introducing the roadblocks back is a way of curbing the increase in the number of accidents? Or it will also be another way of just police officers getting money from people? Because I think that was the greatest concern that led to the roadblocks being removed. But maybe do we think if they are reintroduced, this is going to curb the number of accidents that we're having in the country? Remember, even before I come to my point, let's pick up this call.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, thank you. You're calling from? Your line is not very clear. You're calling from?
It's good to know Kitwa is watching this morning, sir. Tell us your name and then go ahead with your contribution. So your line is pretty bad. I don't know if you can maybe try to move a little bit from where you are so that we can get you clearly. We can't get you. Your line is breaking. So maybe just try to move a little bit, then make your contribution.
Yeah, I'm getting.
We're getting you, but the line is bad. It keeps cutting as you are talking.
Yes.
Pardon? Okay, we can get you now. Go ahead with your contribution.
Okay, just.
Okay, I think if I've gotten what you're trying to say is that the MOUs that are being signed, are they confidential or they are in public interest or they are for the public? I don't know, but I think...
didn't get that quite clear.
I think he's talking about the MOU. What he's trying to ask is that these MOUs that they sign sometimes, is it that they are confidential documents or they are in public interest? That's the question.
Most government documents, Prudence, are confidential, but they are done for the Zambian people. Like you mentioned earlier, to say when an administration changes, you don't go with those things that you signed. You have to take over. The Kaunda era, the Chiluba, the Mwanawasa, Rupiah Band, and
but Sharon, most of the time MOUs are public documents.
They are public documents.
Let's get to hear what another caller has to say before we discuss that. Hello, sir. Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, thank you.
Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Yes, I'm calling from Kenya, Mr. Chwembe.
Yes, Mr. Chwembe.
Yes, I want to make a contribution.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the minister said they want to introduce police to the roadblocks.
Yes, they are thinking of doing that.
I think the police will not do their job as well. You know, they're there just to make money for themselves.
What do you suggest?
What
do you suggest should be done?
Pardon?
What do you suggest should be done?
I think the only thing is to sensitize the driver just to be patient on the road. Yes.
All right.
The police officers will be just be inconveniencing.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much for calling. People there listening, watching us. Thank you. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. So before we discuss what is just said, the earlier question that was asked about the MOUs. MOUs are not secret information. No, they are public documents. That's why sometimes when an MOU is being signed, the media will be invited and they'll tell you the nature of the MOU that is being signed. They'll tell you this agreement and this is being done and these are mostly, but for most of the MOUs that are signed, they are for the public.
Yes.
So they are of public interest. So even the public sometimes has the right to request to say, before that MOU that has been signed, can we please know what it is about? Those documents. That's why we are now pushing for information bill to ensure that some of these things that are being signed are being made available to the public when someone requests. Because as it stands, sometimes it's very difficult. We have no law that tasks these authorities to be giving out that information. But if we have the information bill in place, this is the more reason why you can call a ministry and say, that MOU that was signed, can I please have a document so that I can just look at it and also keep record. It's very important when the public is being involved. What that does is that it will be easy for you to hold our government accountable. You will tell them to say, you signed this MOU that students from University of Zambia, for example, should every year be traveling to these countries, but you're not doing that. What's the problem?
Exactly.
So that's the way it is.
Speak another call, Prudence. Hello, good morning. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning. Your name and where you're calling from? Okay. Go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, my contribution is that this is a Christian mission. And the happening in this country, it used to happen. When we reach around about this time, there are a lot of actions. Very sensitive and aware. The different is the spiritual attack. But we ask our business, the person that there, we pray for the Catholic spiritual.
Okay. Did you pick them?
Okay, thanks.
All right. Thank you so much. Did you pick them?
If I picked them correctly, I might not be precise, but what he's saying is that, remember, Zambia is a Christian nation, and when you begin to see things like this happen sometimes, it might be more spiritual than it looks to the physical. So there's need, I read that, but I didn't hear the last part. I think maybe they're saying there's need to engage people, come together, over these issues. Yes, he says it's more spiritual than it looks, because sometimes it's surprising in a period of 2 weeks, accidents that's just
huge accidents
happen and they leave you puzzled. But of course, Mufurila there, Mr. Chiwembe, says reintroducing roadblocks will not curtail this, as police officers will only go back to the system of collecting revenue and enriching themselves, while accidents will continue. What is needed is sensitizing drivers to be cautious when they are on the road. So what part of sensitization do we want? Because we do see sometimes, even when you go to get license, you are told how you are supposed to behave when you are on the road. That's why we go through.
10 days.
That's why we go through that document, a book, you write exams and stuff like that, and then you will be assessed by someone from RATSA how you drive before they can even certify you with that. So it's not that people don't know. So maybe what kind of sensitization do we need to our drivers? And then there's also a system that we've observed, more especially bus drivers. They have bad attitude when it comes to the road. They think they're on the road.
I always feel like, these people think they're on the road,
because they can stop anyhow.
They stop anyhow.
You are following them, you're driving, and before you know it, you even find yourself hitting the bus, because they stop anyhow. They don't even give you an indicator that they're about to stop. They just see a passenger there, and it's just like the Unza accident. That was all about one passenger. We aren't even sure, maybe she was just going a few distance. For a 5 kwacha, 13 lives were lost, because this driver sees the passenger and he decides to break the laws so that he just picks up that one passenger. But was that really necessary, looking at the amount of lives that have been lost in this accident? We saw one of the UNZA students there, recently graduated in April this year. He was an ICT student, and come September, he loses his life in such an accident. I'm sure the family was so excited that their son had completed school, and they were looking forward to him starting working. They were looking at him as being a helper, but what happens? His life was cut short there. Yeah, very sad situation. And of course, we will be picking up some of the messages that are coming through on our different platform, that is on our Facebook page. We've seen quite a number of messages there that we will be reading of those who are watching. We appreciate your viewership this morning and keeping us company on Camnet TV. So keep those messages, contributions coming. You can phone in over some of the stories that we've just played that made headline in our news yesterday. And let's get to hear some of the solutions. I always emphasize when I come on the program, Sharon, to say solutions to what happens in Zambia are with you, the community members out there. If you decide to keep quiet and not contribute, we will not make anywhere. A difference.
Let's pick the score, prudence. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Kapanda from Lusaka.
All right, Kapanda, please go ahead.
The issue of accidents, I've been following up the conversation that is going on now. The issue of accidents in the last 2 weeks and a couple of times is twofold. On one hand, the members of the public themselves, they have a role to play. You find they see a driver overspeeding, and they cannot stop that because they say, I'm in a hurry, I need to get to my destination. They see a driver overtaking carelessly, they do not care. On the other hand, on the part of the government, my suggestion is they should put deeper punishment. paying a fine for dangerous driving is not enough. I think the government should consider a stiffer punishment. Then a combination of members of the public and what the government will do may help to reduce this, because it's very painful to lose lives like that. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Kapanda, they are from Lusaka.
At least you have somebody who agrees with you. Who agrees with you on the fact that passengers also have a role.
Yeah, they do. I think I was just making a submission the other day and a contribution with some of my colleagues to say passengers equally have a role to play in stopping these accidents. For example, sometimes we stand anyhow. Even where you know there's no station here, you want to stop just because you know bus drivers have a tendency to stop anyhow. So we are also contributing to the amount of accidents that are happening. I think if that, maybe the Unza accident, if that passenger stood by Marshlands where there is a bus stop, I don't think that driver would have been in a position to try to break the law by picking up that passenger. Maybe he would have gone to the station and picked up people. But sometimes we feel lazy, Sharon, to walk to the station. So you just stand to the nearest point because you know definitely a bus driver will stop and pick you. And this is what I've seen in most cases has been resulting to these bus drivers misbehaving, because wherever they find people, they'll stop. But if people stand where they are supposed to be, I'm sure we can reduce on this number of accidents. But Mr. Kapanga there also says, members of the public, you are in a bus, you are saying this driver is breaking the law, and you're just quiet.
Overspeeding actually makes my heart come into my mouth when I get so scared. I think I told you about the experience we had yesterday.
Of course.
It was heart-breaking for me because I was so scared. I was uncomfortable, you know, to be in that vehicle. Like, okay, what's happening? But then the driver, with so much experience that they have, they were okay with it.
Yeah, so, and then of course it says we need to introduce stiffer punishments for those who are breaking the law. I think when it comes to that, I have seen a question on our Facebook platform. Someone was asking, let me just get that question correctly. I don't know where it has gone, but in the early messages that we are popping on the screen, someone was asking to say, who should be held accountable for these accidents that are happening? Are we supposed to, the owners of those buses, are they supposed to refund the passenger? Can a passenger sue them for refund?
I just hope they speak to school. Hello, good morning. Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, thank you. Tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Okay, yeah, this is the extensive calling from Modilusa.
Okay, go ahead with your contribution.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead with your contribution. We can clearly get you.
Okay, so we are talking about the accident that happened in that Chaunza. Though I've just joined the interview. Yeah, I've been asking Madam, there is the point of the passengers were supposed to, when they saw that the driver was breaking the law and all those stuff. The thing is this, bus drivers, they've got a lot of problems. Sometimes I wonder how the Rasta guys look into these bus drivers most of the time. But if you remember, we had the other accident at, what's that road? The Grand North Road. Zanimone there, somewhere there. By the driver, the bus driver. Okay? Nothing happened, the driver did not take it. And there are lots of accidents that happened, drivers did not, they did not take any action of it. Okay? So the big problem where it is that drivers have to put a rule whereby a driver should not stop in the middle of the road. Where the bus driver can stop only at the lane side. That's the reason why there's a lane side. Okay? Not just stopping anywhere anyhow. Overtaking anywhere anyhow. No. Okay? Sometimes me, I think if we are about 6 of us, we find such a driver, we beat him and post him on social media so that people, as the driver can see that these people, they are putting a lot of death in the country. You understand? And I don't understand whether these guys, they got families, because it's like they are using one mind, all of them. Imagine you are driving, okay, you you are driving ahead him, he's behind you. But he overtake you and make a stop just after
overtaking you.
And also away from drivers. There are some pedestrians that are not correct. Okay? Look at if you see you're coming from that Flower Bridge. What's that building? This building, this top building. What's
Findeco House?
No.
Is it going to the city? Coming from the Flower Bridge, this venue.
Oh yeah, it's Findeco House.
Branch off to the city.
Findeco House.
Hello?
Findeco House?
Yes.
Tazara House.
So that if you see the just immediately when you are just branching from Independence Avenue to the city, there is just the distance. The distance is wrong. It's not at the correct place. It's supposed to be at least 100 meters away from the
roundabout.
Not just 1 meter from Independence Avenue. That person who's branching from the Independence Avenue to the city won't manage to stop because the pedestrian is crossing there. Again, when you go far the end of you are joining Church Road to opposite the Central Police, there's pedestrian there, just right at the robots. They have to be at least 100 meters, so at least when you can there's enough space for you to put brakes. So there are a lot of things that we have to look at when it comes to road safety and those other things. There are a lot of things. The drivers, the way they drive, a lot of things.
Okay. Thank you so much. Indeed, there are a lot of things that we need to look at when it comes to our roads.
Very important submission there.
It's a serious issue sometimes. We don't pay attention. Sometimes we are just too fast. As students have been in vehicles where people even don't see the harm. You know, they'll just reach the and then they'll just say,
okay, so there's a question here from Wada Mulu. Wada Mulu is someone who follows us on our different platforms. Shout out to you. Thank you for accompanying us on the program. He says, how reliable are owners of vehicles when accidents happen? Can they be sued? In the case of public service vehicles, such as minibuses and taxi, does insurance provide for payment to passengers and other road users when the driver is found guilty of breaking public service vehicles, breaking road traffic rules? I wonder if owners of public service vehicles could be sued. What would happen? Would they subject their employees, that is drivers?
Subject, I think.
Yeah, I think so. That's what he was about to write. Better if that was possible. That's a very powerful question that has been asked, and I think we should invite someone from RATSA to come and speak to some of the questions that have been raised here, and of course someone from insurance. I think tomorrow we are expecting someone from insurance company to appear on the program, so I think that question, if you follow the program tomorrow, might be answered on the part of insurance companies compensating those who are involved in these accidents. If at all that vehicle is insured, I think we are having someone from insurance on the breakfast show tomorrow. So I'm sure part of that question can be answered. And then other questions can be answered by RATS. I don't know if you have ideas, Sharon, about suing bus owners and stuff like that. Yes, I think we should.
The fine itself, I think one of the things that came out from one of the callers is the fine that is given to people for dangerous driving. It should be changed.
Okay.
It should be changed because, you know, even when somebody is charged with dangerous driving and when lives are lost, if you are life imprisonment or something, you know that, eh?
Yeah, in the case of Ulza where the driver even died.
No, but some survive. Some survive. Because a lot of people that have survived, like some driver, I think that's back on to the
one for Northern Province.
Yes. He's just his legs, but he's alive. So what charge is he going to be charged with? Dangerous driving. But all those 20 lives were lost.
And he will, of course, have his license suspended maybe for a year or two, and afterwards it will be given back to him and he's back on the road.
Back on the road, you know. They'll just be asked to pay a fine, you know. So all these things need to be looked at, because there's just a period that we begin to experience a lot of accidents unprecedentedly, and it's just overwhelming. Like at the moment, it's overwhelming. You cannot lose such many lives in like 2 weeks. It's just beyond.
Okay.
You know.
Let's get to hear what this caller has to say. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm okay.
We are excited that a lady has called on the program.
Okay, I just wanted to contribute.
Yes, please.
On this issue of accidents. Me, what I can say, it's just careless driving. These drivers, what they do, like the number drivers, they drink a lot. They use those motor bottles, but inside is clear. So they are always drunk. If you go to Kulima Tower, they are selling kachas there. And those drivers are just there drinking the whole day. So another issue, I think the city council should check at Kulima Tower and remove all those who are selling beer there. Sometimes they'll be saying it's satanism. There's no satanism in here. It's just careless driving. And you can't even control them. Even if you're on the bus, you tell them that you are overspeeding, they will say, "What is denied? I'm putting it at sea for a super overspeeding." And there are rules. Me, what I can say, maybe the Rasta people should put a number for us, so that when we see them, we just call us and we get their number plate. It will be easy for us. Yeah, that's what I can contribute.
All right. Thank you so much. Powerful contribution there. And of course, a news item challenge to Camnet TV. But we'll follow up. That's a very good submission, Sharon. Bus drivers, conductors are in a tendency of drinking alcohol while on the road. You will realize, and I think she is right, you will think they're drinking more. I have been in buses several times. Early in the morning, I'm coming for work, I'm on a bus. And of course, the driver, drink conductor. Because definitely, if that's a drink, I don't think they can be exchanging with a conductor. No. So the driver is drinking. They can early in the morning, not that it's evening. Sometimes others would even wait at Ibe. But now, drivers start drinking early in the morning. And of course, she mentions to say if you go in bus stations, you find that people are even selling cachasso there in bus stations. What's the essence of having cachasso in bus stations? What's the essence of
having beer around the station?
It's promoting drivers to drink. Powerful point there. And I think Hope Ratsa is listening.
Oh, we have another call, Prudence. Hello, good morning. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
This is Baba Chichi calling from Luancha.
Okay, Luancha representing once again. Give us your contribution, sir.
Yes, I wanted to make a contribution over the accident happening.
Yes.
I know as much as there is carelessness, but in this period as believers we call to pray. There are a lot of activities in the spiritual realm that happen. There are a lot of sacrifices between September up to December, or between September and December. So in between there are a lot. But as much as people should be cautious, people should, I think the enemy takes advantage of the carelessness of people, especially in this period. But we call to pray, we call to cancel such kinds of accidents. So I wanted just to make a contribution that is spiritual, but we need to take precautions as well. And the enemy will always take advantage of the carelessness of people being the season for sacrifices. I know some people would refuse. I know spiritual things are spiritual descent, so not everyone will understand this, but I just wanted to make this as a contribution.
All right.
Okay,
thank
Pastor
you so
much. From Luancha.
Indeed. Many theories are coming from this, and these are personal opinions that you as well can actually call in and give us your opinion on what exactly is happening to our roads and what solutions should be brought forth before they are imposed on you by the minister. And in this unfortunate accident, Prudence, for that happened in the University of Zambia area, Greatest Road, a driver from Zambia National Service also died in that same accident.
Wow.
And very, very sad situation.
That was very sad.
You
have plans,
you know.
And then the sad part, Sharon, among those who died on a bus, when we were hearing about the life history, there was actually a woman who just recently got a job at Namcam. I think she was just a week
old
of getting that job. So I'm sure this is a mother who for quite some time was looking forward to providing for a family. She gets a job, very excited. I know when you're excited for after getting a job, sometimes you even wake up very early. So she was very early. She had plans, got on a bus, looking forward to going for work so that at the month end she can get something, an income out of that. And then and life is just cut short like that.
Very sad situation. However, in conversation, we are talking about the road accidents that the country has witnessed of late. Of course, it is current affairs. We are talking about various issues, but dominating our conversation this morning is the issue of accidents.
Because we played a clip earlier where there was another accident in Lusaka yesterday. We are glad that no life was lost. The driver and his passenger escaped unhurt.
If you saw it, we saw it when we went to pick Zipporah. Motokayale jaking, I feel like, you know, it was towed by a truck. It couldn't move. Even being towed, it was just like all over, you know, it was failing to just, the tires were just, everything was just, it was just spoiled. It didn't scrap me, though. Let's speak this morning.
What others have to say this morning.
Hello, good morning. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello.
Your name and where you're calling us from, sir? Your name is? You're calling from Livingston?
No, that's my name.
Oh, your name is Livingston?
Yeah, my name is Livingston.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Please go ahead with your contribution. Okay, your line is quite bad. It's pretty bad. So I don't know if you can move just a little bit from where you are so that we can get you cleared because your line is breaking. Pardon? You are getting us, but we can't hear you because your line keeps breaking.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now. At least it's better. Can you just speak your mind?
I'm saying that we want to like this.
Okay.
We are going to make things good.
Okay, the line is not very clear, but if I got him correctly, he's talking about we want to see results from these forums that the country is having.
Oh, okay,
yes.
Okay, I see, yeah.
It
is making a contribution to the story that we played earlier, where yesterday the President Hakainde Hichilema was officiating at the China-Zambia Business Forum, which is being held in Lusaka. This is the second expo that we are having. In May this year, we had the AU Business Summit, and we are having now the Zambia-China Business Summit happening here in Lusaka. It's a 2-day event, and he's saying he wants to be seeing results, not just signing MOUs like the President said, coming up with these meetings where you spend resources. In the end, they don't bring out any resources. It's not time to spend resources and any zero from it. So I think that's the contribution he's speaking to. Of course, important submission there. And as we come to the dying end of the program this morning, this has been the Camnet TV Breakfast Show. We're looking at the stories that made headline in our news yesterday. Of course, we're expecting to have a guest, but of course, it has been a fruitful discussion just between me and Sharon. Hopefully, we can have a guest in studio tomorrow and in the coming days. Remember, this is a breakfast show where we allow you to call and make your submissions and contributions with regards to some certain things that are happening in your community. It might be a news item. You call us, and before you know it, we might pay you a visit as Camnet TV news crew. So we had quite a number of stories that we played on the program, Sharon. We did play the meeting yesterday, the Zambia-China Business Forum being held in Lusaka. The president was there. We did also listen to a governance activist who was appealing to government to ensure that as they present the budget tomorrow, no tax holidays for the mining sector. We can't keep giving giant mines tax holidays while the people are being taxed. So it says no more tax holidays. The money that we are borrowing can be raised if we introduce the right taxes in the mining sector. And then now we played this particular clip of an accident that happened yesterday in Kabulonga, just here, where 2 people survived and the car was damaged. And an eyewitness who was there on the scene from Camnet TV says the accident was due to overspeeding by the driver, but the driver himself said he was just from repairing the car and he doesn't know the car just kept moving. And
the brakes couldn't respond.
Yes, that's what he said. But we have received a number of calls, people suggesting, others are saying passengers should be responsible, and if you see a driver is overspeeding, talk to them. But we received another call where someone said these drivers are stubborn. Sometimes when you talk to them, they'll tell you, if you don't want to be in my bus, and then you taxi. So let's speak out over this issue. Others say it's more spiritual than it looks. Between September and December, this is when a lot of sacrifices are made. So let's pray as a nation, even as we go towards ending of the year. We need to pray and cancel all these. But that does not mean we cannot talk to these drivers. Let's talk to them, but let's also involve God in everything that we do. Remember, Zambia is a Christian nation. Then there are some questions that have come up there on our social media platforms. We have taken note of all those questions and we are going to involve Ratsa, and we hope one day we can have Ratsa in studio to come and just explain some of the questions that have come through with regard to can you sue these bus owners, insurance companies. Tomorrow we are expecting someone from the insurance to come and talk about these issues. If there are accidents, does insurance compensate those who are involved in these accidents? So
what does the insurance of a bus mean to the passenger who gets on the bus? Are they also, does it mean they are also insured? You know, when they get on that bus that is insured? All those questions.
We've also heard the issues of life insurance. I think these are things that we don't really understand. So when they say life insurance, what does that mean? I think I watch sometimes investigative discovery where someone kills someone because of life insurance. What does that mean? How much is it? How much do you get out of that? Because if something is worth killing, it should be worth
quite something. It depends anyway. With any insurance policy that you have, there's always a different level at which you can get the returns. But then in Zambia, we are not so sure because our insurance companies, our insurance institutions really have a long way to go in explaining to us as a people towards understanding. The only thing that we are most compliant with is insuring our cars because we don't want to be impounded. But when it comes to life assurance, property insurance, we don't do those things. You know, because you can
even as a farmer, sometimes we've seen farmers lose out Sharon. They are going to the market and the counter they are in has an accident and all the tomatoes are on the ground.
And you lose out just like that. So these are things that people need to begin understanding. And maybe it's the conditionalities that are attached to insurance companies or maybe making your claims. This is one of the things that has come out as often as it can. To say when I want to make claims, they take long. I may not even be given the claims after contributing for 5-7 years. So people think they are losing their money and enriching these insurance companies. However, this is one of the conversations that will be done tomorrow, hopefully by one of the insurance companies on the Business Breakfast Show. Thank you so much for choosing Camnet TV. This is where we come to an end of our show this morning. Of course, we looked at how the Kwacha was faring against the major convertibles. We looked at the health corner as well, among many stories that we covered and setting the tone this morning. Thank you so much once again. Keep watching Camnet TV. Good morning.